Kuzambo, and welcome to People's Voice. The topic for tonight's discussion is, can GNH shape our future? That is post 2015. Till 2015, we are going to talk about the Millennium Development Goal till 2015, and after 2015, the agenda that we need to set for ourselves as countries, as individuals, as nations, whatever entity it may be, will have to set agenda for our development. And the key area, or the most significant area that we need to dwell on, at least in our context, is GNH, because GNH being the development philosophy, I think it's important that we need to talk about it. And post 2015, the pillars of GNH, will we be able to implement as enshrined or as it is put as the philosophy itself. So these are the things that we need to talk about. Tonight I have Dr. Tandin Doji, Mr. Sangye Doji, Dr. Tesh Dzongkha, and Ms. Chinle Chwetin. Thank you all for your time. I've been told that we have not invited any experts academically, though, on GNH, but we do have some people who have some practical knowledge about what GNH is all about and its implementation, because post 2015 or even for now, GNH is the development philosophy that we have been following and will have to follow thereafter. So with this, let me also acknowledge the contributions and support given to this program by, in fact, this program is organized by the UN office here in Thimphu, and this is one of the second programs that we have had, and we'll be bringing you a series of programs on post 2015 agenda or GNH and the way it's going to shape the future. We'll also bring in regional programs from Bhutan, Trashigang, Samru Dzongkha, and Samsi starting from 9th. So be part of us. There are doubts and suspicion that our people in the rural areas do not know much about GNH. Whether it's true or not, let's find out from themselves. Who knows? They could be expert on GNH, and we are only experts, self-proclaimed experts here in Thimphu. So let's find out all these details. Now, ladies first. Tile, what do you think? GNH post 2015, is it going to shape our future?
Thank you, Dawa. I think GNH post 2015 and even currently is shaping our world and our future, and I think it will definitely play a big role in shaping our present circumstance as well as our future. One of the things that, as we all should know, is that I think many a times GNH, when something goes wrong, then we kind of default or reflect and say, is this GNH? But I think we have to keep in mind that GNH by nature should not be prescriptive. GNH shouldn't prescribe or shouldn't tell what happiness means to an individual. GNH is more of a platform. It gives the framework within which a country, a nation, a family, an individual can base their values upon. And more so in the future, I think GNH does provide a great platform, because currently I think a lot of people know and are aware that growth as we know is not what it's all turned out to be. We have a lot of discontentment amongst people. We have a lot of crisis in the economic system currently around the world. So GNH makes us pause and think about what is important, and what is important for a nation, what is important for a community. And I think GNH provides that powerful platform, so I think it is very relevant. And Bhutan being the birthplace for GNH, I think we do play a big role, and I think every Bhutanese should feel it's their responsibility to propagate GNH as we go forward. And I would say that there is no one definition for GNH, because GNH is a holistic concept. We have frameworks within which policies are based upon, but at an individual level, GNH can be defined. And I also must add that GNH is not is not happiness in the sense that today I'm happy, tomorrow I'm unhappy. GNH is more about well-being and contentment, or a level of, or a sense of satisfaction. And the whole point of GNH is that that framework, that platform is there, and how each of us go towards achieving it is within our own capacity.
Yes. Maybe I'll directly jump to Mr. Sangindojila. What do you think? Everything that goes well is attributed to GNH, no doubt. But there are certain things that do not go that well as well. For instance, a small mistake, people say, we are in a land of GNH, what is going on? But are we behaving like a GNH citizen?
Yes, thank you, Ladawa, and thank you for having me along with the others. And before I go on to actually answer Dawa's question, I would firstly like to agree with Tinley that there is no specific definition for GNH. We are talking about a very subjective thing here, and how people define happiness really depends on one's proponents about happiness. And now, about coming to the question you're asking about, the mistakes people are making, and then the comments people are passing about the attitude people are showing, that basically saying that we're in a GNH country, we shouldn't be behaving like that. I agree. I totally agree with that. And these kind of opinions is actually arising because just now the one challenge that we are facing in the country is we as Bhutanese citizens, even though we take pride in saying that Bhutan is the first country to have adopted the human happiness as the ultimate objective of development, we don't have a common understanding about what GNH is all about. Now, having saying that, I, or for that matter anybody, we cannot dispute how people define happiness at the individual level. But in order to understand what GNH is all about, I think we as Bhutanese citizens, every one of us, from belonging to the country from where GNH is actually originated, should actually have a consistent view and understand as to what our government is actually doing in the name of GNH. Now, every Bhutanese, forget the country itself, every Bhutanese, as we step out of Bhutan, we say we are Bhutanese, we are associated directly with GNH. But the way we explain GNH, there's a lot of variations. And like I said, at the individual level, it's up to people have their own views about happiness. It's a subjective matter. What makes me happy doesn't necessarily make someone else happy. So that's okay. But like I said, now I would like to take this liberty, in trying to explain what the government is actually doing in the name of GNH, because I feel that it is important for us, all of us Bhutanese, to have a consistent view about what GNH is all about, what the government's doing in the name of GNH. Now, GNH, as Dawa yourself earlier had stated, that we don't need to actually talk about how the theory actually came into existence, more propounded by our fourth Drugelpo during the 1970s itself. The GNH philosophy had been propounded, and ever since a lot of work had been had gone into actually trying to operationalize this vision that has been presented by the Fourth Drugelpo, and the institutions concerned, particularly the Center for Bhutan Studies, have done a lot of work in trying to develop the indicators so that we can actually operationalize the idea of GNH as a development approach. Because without indicators, we really cannot measure, and without having something to measure, we cannot manage it. So, having seen that, now GNH has come into existence with the belief, as my colleague had earlier stated, that the ultimate desire of every human being, not just in Bhutan but around the world, what people aspire from happiness is not material satisfaction. Ultimately, it's happiness that people are aspiring from the development of our country. So, keeping that in mind, the government, goes on to actually, government feels that keeping with that backdrop in mind, is the duty of the government to create the enabling conditions for people to be happy. Now, earlier my friend in the Dzongkha segment had said that there are certain universally accepted conditions for making people happy. So the government wants to make sure that these conditions are put in place so that our people can actually have access to these conditions in order to be happy.
Did our government put all these enabling conditions in place? And many would believe that pursuing GNH is a collective responsibility. State or the government would create all the enabling environment, but it's for the individuals or the citizens to pursue happiness on their own. Is it happening both ways?
Yes and no. Yes, because government is putting those conditions necessary for people to be happy in place. Now, like I said earlier, while the idea existed since 1970s, the actual operationalization of GNH could actually begin only in 2008. So just now, it's very hard for us to actually see the impact of how we are faring after we have adopted the GNH approach. The fact that GNH has attracted the attention of so many great minds around the world, so many countries, the developed countries around the world, questioning Bhutan about how we are actually operationalizing GNH and trying to emulate what Bhutan is doing, is, in my opinion, is evidence that what we are doing is we're headed in the right direction.
Yes.
Second of all, it's also an evidence that the world is out looking for a new development approach. Now, whether it's the adoption of GNH as the new development approach, that I would not like to comment on that. That's beyond me. But I feel that just the attention of these great minds, the Nobel laureates, the religious leaders, and the developed countries around the world is a fact that the world is out looking for a new development approach. Now, about having your question about having whether the government having put all these conditions in place, I would say yes. How is the GNH framework different from the other development framework like the GDP-led development model that's followed in the East? Now, things like all of us know that we have these 9 domains in the development framework of GNH Muslim, where we have health, education. These are the conventional scientific indicators or parameters that every government around the world takes into account while making decisions or in their development framework. What has been undermined is the domains that the GNH perspective have brought into the framework are things like psychological well-being, community vitality, time use, and the cultural diversity. These aspects have not been taken into account by these so-called development framework, GDP-led development framework. They were undermined. They were of the assumption that whatever action or inaction that government takes are neutral to these aspects. But in reality, they are not. Whatever government does have effect on these, and these are important proponents for proponents of happiness for every human being.
Yes. Thank you. I think before I go to doctors, let me take a call. That call has been waiting for quite some time. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry to keep you waiting, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Right.
By the way, introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Punsaraptan, and I'm calling from Thimphu.
Yes, sir.
And my question I'd like to ask to the panelist is that I think there seems to be like a sort of mass confusion over the whole concept of GNH. Principally, one of the reasons what I feel is, and I would like the panelist opinion on this, is that they've reduced the whole concept of GNH to such a subjective notion. So if a man is a drunkard and he doesn't get his daily dose of drink, he might go around telling people, I don't have alcohol today, where's my GNH? So if you reduce it to such subjective notions, you are sowing the seeds for mass confusion. So don't you think it's high time we sort of find an objective basis for defining at least the conditions that lead to happiness? For example, the basic minimum standards. For example, everything is so abstract. What is good governance? Is same-sex marriage, if you allow that or if you prohibit that, which is a good policy? It's all up there in the air. It's like a floating head. So in this respect, I would like the panelists' opinion, because I remember a great man called the Buddha who objectified such a great philosophy called Buddhism with the Four Noble Truths. What he gave to his Sangha, food to eat, education, Medicare. We have 80% of people who don't have homes of their own. We don't have protection for our tenants. We don't have proper labor laws. Most of them are just paper tigers. And we go on harping about GNH. So if we could have specific objectified standards, wouldn't that be the greatest service to GNH in this world? In Bhutan. And before we go on educating the whole world, like one of our panelists said earlier, isn't it better to educate our villagers now?
Yes, sir.
Before the next rounds of election come up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finsurabdan. Thank you so much for your views. Maybe Dr. Tandon, if you could try and answer his questions.
Yes. Thank you. Well, I think when you talk about GNH and its impact, first of all, it's very important to look at other development paradigm. For example, gross domestic product. If I personify gross domestic product and gross national happiness, then I would see gross domestic product as a selfish person. For example, if you follow the gross domestic product paradigm, what we actually see is that there is no limit. Gross domestic product driven development would actually try to produce more, motivate and inspire or create desire, and then consumerism, which necessarily does not transpire into well-being. And because of that, GNH, when you compare, we tend to appreciate the goodness of gross national happiness. Well, regarding the subjectivities, I think to some extent it's true, because if you are talking in terms of numbers, of course we have got the methodologies and the formulas to create the GNH index. But if you are talking about measuring governance, measuring health, probably these kind of things are in the process of development. I hear that a committee has been formed involving many economists and academicians. So from that perspective, it's true. But what is very important is we have already started to actually define, set a framework. The 9 domain itself, 72 indicators, for instance, are the parameters which will guide. And looking from that perspective, I think the subjectivity of considering GNH as a very subjective matter or philosophy would be quite difficult to say.
Yes, sir. Tille, you raise your hand if you would like to supplement.
Yeah, I just wanted to get into Finso's question on the phone. Actually, I agree with him, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. And maybe what I said was, I don't know if there was some misunderstanding in what I was trying to say. Happiness at an individual level is subjective. We cannot define for someone what happiness means for that person. And the example he gave about a drunk person being drunk, and when he doesn't get his daily dose of alcohol, he's going to ask, where is his GNH? And that's exactly what I was trying to say, that we shouldn't reduce GNH to that level. It's just not about momentary happiness, but rather about contentment and satisfaction and well-being overall. And his question about objectifying GNH, and if we objectify GNH, we're doing a service to GNH. I agree with him. I think at a national level, for policy framework and for a country, GNH needs to be objectified, because we do need to have milestones to achieve and to measure our progress against, because in Bhutan, whatever policy we implement, we analyze it through a lens of GNH, and I think GNHC does that. All policies are analyzed through the GNH lens, which Sangi earlier pointed out, the 4 pillars and the 9 domains. And I think we are already doing that. And in terms of the, educating GNH domestically before we go international, one of the things of great ideas is that once it's born, it takes a life of its own. And it's Bhutan's responsibility to keep up with it. A lot of the evolvement of what GNH is so far is because of the interest and the momentum that we've gained because of from outside the country. And I think it's a big shame on ourselves if we are not at least leading that discussion, and if you're not coming, being the leader in that discussion and in that discourse. And for me, I think GNH will always be a work in progress, because what is the minimum standard of, what is the minimum requirement for a comfortable life today will be different in 10 years.
Dr. Dzongkha, one question is that there are some people who are not actually comfortable and who are not actually happy with the fact that we are taking GNH outside Bhutan. And the argument they put forward is, why do we take GNH outside when we have so many problems in hand? We are not implementing or practicing GNH in our own country or in our own society. Why do we have to take it outside? Do you believe it? But again, there are some group who feel that we are doing what we could do best to create enabling environment for the people to pursue happiness on their own.
Yes, I think in general we cannot make everybody happy. There will be some who feels that whatever we are doing right, and the GNH is, the GNH is taking place in the right direction and so on. And there will be always somebody who will be skeptical, and I don't think we'll get 100% agreeable. There is always going to be disagreeing. Half of the people will be disagreeing. I think that's the beauty of it. That's where the discourse comes in, and then we scrutinize, and then we feel that what is right and what is wrong, and who defines whose happiness. Because of course the question came in and said like how we are not preparing domestically first and then taking it outside. I don't think that we have the choice. I think it automatically, we cannot hide GNH within our own parameters. It will get out, and like Tille said, it is our responsibility how we handle it, where we are heading. Because if we don't understand ourselves, then we cannot explain to what it means to others. However, if we cannot solve the problem of our people with the basic necessities, we cannot talk about GNH, because the basic necessities are first of all, basic necessities are important for our poor people out there. And we talk here, we discuss and we talk all about GNH because we have enough to eat and enough to wear. So I think the reality is we need to think about those people who do not have the basic necessities. So anyway, GNH, I would like to put out there that GNH is not a magic that someone can hand in to us. Like I said, it is each and every one of our responsibility, and how we define, how we each individual has a definition of their own. We cannot solve everybody's problem. However, like I said that in the previous discussion, that when people talk about what the mistake we do is when people from outside, they say, how do you measure GNH? Then we go into measurement, and we forget about our own why. When we talk about GNH, in the beginning, what we were based on, what we were trying to base on. What about the things that it's not measurable, the values, the family values that we always have. And that's why from outside, when they are so excited and they are seeking for alternative, and they think that what we are doing is, what we are offering is something unique, is that that is different what they have, what the so many countries, the so-called developed countries have lost. So I think at least we have something to offer, rather than being skeptical amongst ourselves.
Okay.
So
thank you. We have another caller online. Hello.
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 Hello. Hello.
Please introduce yourself.
La?
Please introduce yourself. Your introduction, please. Okay, please go ahead. Okay. And the callers seem to be not so much comfortable in introducing ourselves. Anyways, we lost the line. Moving on. Mr. Sangeet Ujula, post-2015, talking about values, now part of GNH, very much part of GNH. If we were to set agenda for the world, don't you think the fundamental human values could be one of the biggest agendas that we need to set and work towards promoting it?
Yes, very much, very much. In fact, studies on anthropology and studies on public policies have revealed that human beings around the world, we have some basic human values that's innate in all human beings, irrespective of our, where we belong, irrespective of our culture, background, race, color. We have, in fact, some basic human values that are innate. So having these values, common values among the human beings around the world, the approach that we are taking in Bhutan, the GNH approach, it is an indication, of the potential possibility of maybe, GNH being, the adaptability of GNH beyond our own country. Now, second of all, I just wanted to sort of reinforce about the question that was asked about the drunk person, which I thought actually I had already said a little bit about earlier, the conditions about, the proponents about happiness. Well, it's the duty of the government to put in place those generally accepted conditions for someone to make an individual happy. But, it's only the government's only, the government is not a provider of happiness. In the process of creating these enabling conditions for people to be happy, I think the government is more of a facilitator. People should actually understand that. The proponents of what makes someone happy differs from person to person. Even if all the conditions for happiness are there in place, someone may choose not to actually access these conditions and may actually go on to choose something else. Like, for example, the caller actually mentioned about, basically he's saying that, he chooses to be happy by, getting the dose of drink that he drinks every day. So if he doesn't get that the next day, he's basically complaining that he's not happy because the condition is not there and he's not getting his drink, therefore he's not happy. And the other thing about the GNH being subjective, and I just wanted to reinforce again about what was said earlier. At the time of developing indicators, we have objective indicators as well as subjective indicators. The objective indicators basically all based on empirical knowledge, proven stats, based on proven stats. And then we have the indicators based on normative views, basically people's perception. And I just wanted to actually sort of point that out because, these subjective indicators prove to be very, in fact, very important. Now, if you go by, what experts have to say, and if our objective indicators are doing well as opposed to the subjective indicators, technically our people should be happy, but in reality that's not the case. The objective indicators, for example, might be doing very well, and the subjective indicators are not doing well. But the people whose subjective indicators are not doing well are more happier than the people whose objective indicators are doing well. And if I may maybe give an example, based on the GNH survey conducted by the Center for Bhutan Studies, now we sort of, in our organization, actually sort of compared this multidimensional poverty index, and the GNH index of 2010. Interestingly, one of the findings is that, for example, the Dzongkha, where poverty is very high, the poverty index, multidimensional poverty is very high. If you look at the GNH index, the GNH index of Dzongkha is above the national average. And that just goes on to show that income, or the objective indicators, so to say, are not everything that actually contributes towards one's happiness.
Okay, thank you. We have another caller online. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, please go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm from Dzongkha.
Yes.
Just my view on how does a Bhutanese as an individual contribute by their simplicity in terms of their acknowledgement or their acceptance and their religion to this unit, and yet how a person can still not be civilized or maybe it's like how a Bhutanese need to adapt to civilization, and yet we think a Bhutanese remains very simple.
Well, I think, ma'am, if you could repeat and maybe talk a bit slow so that we can understand you. For now, I think it all sounded French to me.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to ask, how does a Bhutanese, by their nature, who has the simplicity and they are happy in their own way, contribute, is taken into account in GNH, and yet the civilization of a Bhutanese still remains otherwise. So would you have anything to say on that?
Okay.
Am I clear, or am I still sounding French?
Let me try and refresh whatever I understood, because maybe in the interest of time, we cannot let you speak for the third time. And also, we don't want to bother you again and again. Dr. Tandon, Bhutanese by nature is simple, humble, is what our caller just said. So keeping this in mind, should we now capitalize on we Bhutanese as being simple, humble, and try and work on the kind of nature we have, and also take into account the civilization, the kind of civilization that we are in, meaning things might change, everything is going to change, development, whatever you talk about, these are going to change, but ultimately the nature that we as Bhutanese have and the kind of surrounding that we have should remain as it is. Can that be a possibility?
Yes, the nature of the Bhutanese, as mentioned by the who asked the question, I think this is a strength. And if you are talking about GNH in another country, most probably it would be quite difficult to influence, because the way the nature of the people, and then the way the cultural background, social background is quite different, but we are in a very advantageous situation, and I think we can capitalize on that. So GNH is actually in a very good situation, and I see that with educating for GNH going out in the school, we have more scope post 2015 of a successful implementation of GNH.
Yes, sir. Any questions from the floor? My sincere apologies to our caller. I had to speak up whatever came to my mind, and I'm not very much convinced about understanding you correctly. If I didn't understand you correctly, I'm sorry for that. The show must go on. Next. Okay. Where's the microphone? Okay. Yes, sir. Namgesa?
My question is to Sangye. Making a fair assessment of where Bhutan is in terms of achieving the MDGs and where we will get by the 2015 deadline, can you share with us some of the core elements of GNH or some of the core development issues of Bhutan that you foresee setting the global development agenda after 2015? Some of the core development issues that you foresee Bhutan will be able to contribute in terms of setting the post-2015 development agenda.
Thank you.
First of all, I think the question basically is comparison with MDGs. MDGs, okay. Well, I think MDGs basically focuses on overcoming critical development challenges that's facing humanity, and MDGs basically outline the global consensus on what constitutes the minimum core of a sound development action. So that's how MDGs came into. That's how MDGs are looked at, and you know. The MDGs never actually had a problem kicking into the framework of the development of our country, because the goals of MDGs share a lot of synergy with our elements of what we're calling GNH. So as it is, as you know, the 10 plan, the overarching goal of our 10 plan is also poverty reduction, and whatever programs and activities that are taking place around that are very much synergized, are very much aligned with that of the MDGs. So what had happened is, the work that we're doing in the name of GNH has actually contributed a lot towards achieving the goals of MDGs, and the MDGs in return are still in the process of helping, achieving the long-term goal of GNH that we have aimed. Now, post 2015, like I said earlier, for the Bhutanese, like I said, I do not actually see a problem. Like I said, the development approach that we have adopted in the name of GNH, and like again, like I said earlier, the attention that that we are getting based on the approach that we have adopted, it just goes to show that we are in the right direction, and people actually feel that they should also move towards the similar directions in Mavola. So the GNH approach that we have adopted is very much holistic, and it sort of virtually engulfs almost all the MDG goals that are there. So that's why me personally, I do not know, I do not foresee development issues as such, but the only issue that I see is keeping up with the approach that we have taken, because again, because happiness is very subjective. The proponents to happiness will change, as as we all know that change is a law of inevitable mushkila. So based on changes, what causes happiness will go on changing. So because of which, I think we have to keep carrying out the GNH service at a given interval of time. I think just now is 3 years, to ensure that we are on the right track.
Okay. Okay. We have exactly 5 minutes left. Within these 5 minutes, I'm going to throw a challenge to all the panelists. And you all being, by virtue of being a panel member, you'll have to come up with some agenda. To wrap up the show, let me start with Tille. Post 2015, keeping GNH in mind, the agenda that we would like to put forward to the world.
I'd just like to raise areas where post 2015 Bhutan should look into, and that should form the agenda. I think number one, being a young democratic country, we should look into the access of information. Access of information and the importance of people's engagement with that information. And if I can interject in that, I work for READ Bhutan, Rural Education and Development, and we actually are one of the only organization in the country where we're establishing a network of community libraries. And I think when you talk about access to information, for Bhutan, we should have a system of public libraries. I think we don't have that right now, and I think libraries are the perfect platform for access to information. And number two, I would like to raise is water. I think human survival will not happen if you don't have safe drinking water. And Bhutan, haven't reached that critical point, but if we have reached that critical point, I think then it's already too late. But I think we should really look at how to conserve and how to really think about access to clean drinking water. So the water would be the third, and technology. How we're going to use technology in our favor, because in this day and age, access to computer is almost a basic necessity for a young individual. If you don't have access to internet or to the computer or even mobile, mobile penetration is very high. Almost every farmer has a mobile. So how we use technology and access to technology to our advantage will also really define how post-2015, how it plays in favor of our own development. Okay. And the fourth, if I can just say the fourth one, I think the CSO and the NGO sector is very new. And I think the relationship and the thing between the government and the CSO sector is still very new. We're both still trying to find where each of us fit. But I think going forward, the place and the role that NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, can play to assess the government achieving our goals and our development goals. So.
Thank you. Dr. Tashi? Briefly.
Yes, I want to put out there that the education is very important. Education, I feel that education will play an important role to change the dynamic of the education, how we educate our younger generation in a differently than now. Of course, we are trying to change our education system through GNH infused education and so on, but still we have problems. And then the other thing is environmental protection. There are still we have yet to go I feel that there are so many bigger businesses trying to push the rural people to get their, whatever the mining, for example, if I can be direct, the mining is concerned, how they push the rural people to get into that, and then there is always behind somebody from bigger businesses, and then that shows that we are still not yet there. We haven't been able to raise awareness about GNH to these people.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave you there. We'll have more time to talk maybe sometime in near future because the show must go on, and we're talking about a subject that would require lots of time to deliberate.
Sorry, though, your question.
Your agenda for post 2015. Briefly.
Okay, I'm just going to take this liberty to actually go on and say that GNH is a gift of our Fort Drugelpoe, not just to the people of our country, but to the human society at large around the world. GNH basically comes in and tells the GDP-led development approach, to be mindful about the pace they are moving at in their pursuit of material gain. We have to remember that we live in a world where the natural resources are very limited. We cannot afford to go on exploiting it forever because it's not going to last forever. And we live in a environment where the ecological system is thinly balanced. So go with if the framework is useful to anybody outside beyond Bhutan. That's my advice.
Thank you. Finally, Dr. Tandon.
Well, I'll be very short in the context of time. My agenda for post 2015 would be rural prosperity. While the government has done so much in the 10th five-year plan, there are still lots to be done. There are villages where we need to walk 3 days. There are villages where the basic necessities like safe drinking water has not arrived. even the electricity. So rural prosperity and creating the enabling environment for the rural people to boost their income and ultimately see that GNH has come to their village collectively.
So thank you so much. I think this brings us to the end of our program. We would like to go on and on, but in the interest of time, we'll have to wrap up here. The message is loud and clear. Agenda setting must go on post 2015. We will be going to some places beyond Thimphu so that people at the grassroots level are heard. They have so many fantastic ideas and wonderful things to say, but often we presume that we in Thimphu know everything and we are the best. Let's listen to them, because Chimi during Dawikurin last week on same topic said that people in the rural areas have wonderful ideas. We are coming to listen to you. Agenda setting will be carried on hereafter. Thank you so much for watching People's Night. It's time to say good night.